Good evening. We'll go ahead and call tonight's special meeting to order. We thank you all for being here tonight. Renee, if you would show everyone present. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to approve tonight's agenda, and Mr. Hall has requested a separation of certified and classified on the consent agenda, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll take that vote separately. If whoever needs to make that motion would include that, please.
Make a motion to approve with the separation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. All in favor? All right, thank you. That's 7-0.
We also have to amend the agenda board we have a personnel addendum that we need to add to the consent agenda. So if you would please consider that as well. But that personnel addendum needs to be added to tonight's agenda.
Is there a motion to add the addendum?
Make a motion to add the addendum.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. Any discussion? All in favor of adding the addendum to tonight's agenda? Thank you. 7-0. I'm sorry about that, Dr. Mellon.
Okay.
No public comments tonight, Renee? All right, so we'll go right into the consent agenda. We'll take items 1 through 4. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving items 1 through 4 as presented? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you. And then the personnel will include the addendum. So we need to vote on the certified personnel report first. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any discussion on certified? Okay, all in favor? All right, that's 7-0. And then next we'll take the classified personnel report. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Pavey. Is there a second? Ms. Perkins, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? And opposed? That's 4-3. All right. Got it? All right. Gifts to buildings.
Where's my copy?
We're going fast.
Oh, we're going quick. Well, those of you that are frequent flyers of the meeting know that we pull this every meeting just so we can discuss. Once again, $8,000 from the community went to the schools, including $2,000 from the Clark County Jail, which appreciate that, and the PTO $4,500 for looks like cabinets and projectors, and then art supplies from look at $1,000.97 from them box tops again. How many of us throw those away? And if they can get $1,000, if we could get the whole district doing it. Anyway, wanted to thank everybody for it, and I'll make a motion to accept the gifts to schools.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley, and second by Mrs. Kraft. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you. All right, we'll move on into action items. We have a short list for this evening. Elementary and secondary student handbooks is first up.
Board, those items have been presented to you, and we hope that you've had the opportunity to review the handbooks. A lot of time and effort goes into the development of those handbooks. So at this point in time, I would ask for you to approve the handbooks as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. White. Any discussion on the handbooks? I'm sorry, on the student handbooks. All right, all in favor? Thank you. That's 7-0. And then next we have the athletic handbooks.
Board, again, similar to the elementary student handbooks or to the school student handbooks, we provide these and produce these athletic handbooks. A lot of work has gone into it. Appreciate all the efforts facilitating it by Mr. Hare. And at this point in time, we would ask you to approve the elementary and middle school athletic handbooks as presented.
Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. Thank you. 7-0. Next, we have a contract with Curtis and Livers.
At this point, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Schneff.
Did I pronounce that right, Ann? Is it Livers?
It is, that's right. Hi. Tonight, we're just asking you to approve a continuation of the contract. Curtis and Livers is a system that came out of DOE in order to count our kids. It's what we use to cross-check our counts for special education. So I look at Mr. Hall because we work together on some of that in West Clark, and we make sure that our numbers and the numbers of the school match. We use it through their system. So it is a contract.
Right.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? All right, that's 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have the roofing contract for New Washington Elementary.
On March 2nd, 2012, tornadoes devastated the southern Indiana area. New Washington Elementary School received significant hail damage to its roof. Negotiations have been ongoing as to the level of repairs that will be approved by Greater Clark's Property Casualty Insurance Company and GCCS. The parties have agreed that a new sprayed polyurethane roof will be applied over the existing standing seam roof, and a new 20-year warranty will be issued upon completion of the installation. Roof management serves as Greater Clark's consultant on roofing issues and provides the design and specifications related to the roof replacement at New Washington Elementary School. Bids were requested and advertised locally and opened today at 2 o'clock. Greater Clark County Auxiliary Services and Roof Management reviewed the bid and are making a recommendation. We'd like to award the bid for $868,777, which is a base bid, plus alternate bid number 1, $550, for a total combined bid of $869,327 that will be paid by our insurance company.
I'll move to accept.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Second by Mrs. Kraft. Any questions? Discussion?
Just one, Dr. Dykle. How many bids did we actually get on this?
How many bids?
Mm-hmm. Just one bid. Okay. Is that because no one else wanted to bid, or?
It was sprayed on that, and then companies in the area that we spray on.
Any other questions? All in favor? Was that 7-0? Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Who's going to vote against insurance?
Really? Well, there's another end to that. After insurance pays, they usually increase our premium, so not like we're completely unscathed there. All right, permission to advertise.
Yes. What we'd like to do is ask permission to advertise when we come back on June 4th. We can actually do an additional appropriation for our school pension debt fund for $123,288. We believe that the state gave us the wrong amount on that, and we actually have the revenue to support this, so that's why we're coming back to you to do an additional appropriation. And then on the rainy day fund, we would like to appropriate the full amount, $4,285,384. We're not going to use it all, so don't get excited. It's just that I didn't appropriate any of the money this year, and we know we're going to end up using some of the money in the general fund, also in transportation, operating, and bus replacement, and possibly capital projects also, mainly because of the tax cut.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Second. Mr.
Second.
Hall? Thank you. Any questions or discussion or griping about our wonderful state
Well, we
cutting
can
our
gripe,
budget?
we can gripe, but nobody wants to sit here for that.
Nobody's listening anyway.
All in favor? 7-0. No discussion items today. Mr. Hall, do you have a report or a request?
Nope.
Ms. Perkins? Mr. White?
No, thank you.
Mrs. Kraft?
No, thank you.
Mr. Satterley?
No, thank you.
Mr. Pavey? No. All right. We'll move right on into budget review. You're back up, Mr. Dykle? Dr. Dykle?
The strategic plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. I skipped the strategic plan.
Yeah, it won't take
Sorry.
It won't take that long. Board, again, each month I like to take a little bit of time just to bring you up to speed on our strategic planning process. We have an end-of-year review scheduled for June 6th. There'll be a 1-hour meeting, and at that point in time we'll bring our subcommittees together, our 4 subcommittees, and actually go through. If you remember, the document we produced has an actual results column. So we'll go ahead and produce whatever the actual results are. As you know, we just adopted this a couple months ago, but we'll provide some actual results in that column for the board. We'll bring it back to the board and share that end-of-year review with you at the last board meeting in June, so you have it. We will also, I think it's important for you to know, I appreciate the efforts of Aaron Bajorquez, who is helping us with looking at sort of rebranding our school corporation a little bit. We're hoping to bring some more information to you in the near future, but you know, with our change in our mission and our vision statements, we believe there's a need to sort of look at our logo and how we're going to be portraying that to the community, and our goal would be to bring that out and introduce that to our community as part of a revamping of our website and many other things just prior to next school year. So July 29th is our opening day, and we'd like to be able to, you know, provide sort of the new look with the idea that, you know, we're bridging all stakeholders for the benefit of all of our students, and our mission is to give 100% every day to make sure every student has a post-secondary opportunity. So knowing that, Aaron is coordinating some work to get that done, and we'll hope to bring you some more information in the near future related to that. So we're moving forward in a good direction.
Thank you, and I apologize for skipping over
That's
that.
okay.
My allergies are affecting my thinking ability tonight. All right. No policy reviews tonight, Ms. Lewis? All right, Dr. Dykle, you really are up this time.
I take my glasses off so I can see these small numbers. We'll just look at a couple of the funds. General fund, what was really nice about this one is public law and the revenue, account 4231. We've actually received 4 payments this year, 3 last month, 1 this month for the impact aid for River Ridge. So we actually received $698,000 4 times this year. So that's for 2010, 11, 12, and 13. So we're all up to date, which is nice, because we're going to end up losing half of our full-day kindergarten grant this year, because what they're going to do is, instead of it going all coming to us in December, we're only going to receive half of it this year, and then the other half will come January through June. It'll come 1/12 every month is what they're going to do. Expenditure side, we're doing good on expenditures. If you look all the way down at the very bottom, we're projected on a deficit of about $351,000, but we haven't adjusted the full day kindergarten, so add another $1 million to that, so about $1.3 million instead of $2.5 million. So the deficit's coming down. Next year, I hope to see the deficit go away. That's my goal in 2014, and we should be back in the black. So that's the good news on the general fund. We'll skip over the 2 debt service funds because there's not much going on there. Capital projects, we're holding our own right now. Local property, excise, CVET taxes always scare me. When we get our first installment in June, that should give me a good indication of what we'll see for the rest of the year. If we get at least 50%, I'll be happy. If we come in really low, then I'm really going to worry about our tax rate collections. Expenditure-wise, we're doing fine. We're looking at $1.5 million projected in circuit breaker loss. So with that included, we're looking at a deficit of about $2,300 in capital projects. Not bad. Transportation operating, again, property taxes still concerns me since we haven't collected anything yet. But looking at that, expenditure-wise, We have a circuit breaker loss of $861,993 projected, and we're looking at a total loss or a negative of $225,000 in transportation operating. And in bus replacements, again, local property taxes again is a concern, and we're looking at a $106,000 circuit breaker loss, and here we're looking at about $184,000 projected loss in bus replacement. And this doesn't show us buying any buses this year. So, entertain any questions you may have on the budget. Overall, we're not doing too bad. You see negatives up there, but you know, luckily we have $4 million in the rainy day fund to cover us. So, like I said, we won't use all of it. We're only going to use a portion of it, and hopefully by December of 2014, we should be back in the black.
Dr. Dock, I know we're doing a lot of work on the transportation side. When do we think we'll begin to see some of the fruits of those labors?
Right now, the county GIS map is, from what we understand, 2 years behind. So now we have to go back to Versatrans and see if they will redesign the map for us, which is what we paid them to do anyway. So that's going to put several more weeks, if not a month, to the calendar. The projected savings that I was hoping to see this year when it comes to fruition, we're going to have to do it manually. We're looking at eliminating about 7 routes maybe. We're looking at special ed routes to see if we can combine some of those manually. We just can't use the Versatrans system yet. So by this time next year, I expect to report to you it's up and running and show you what some of the good things are that we could do with the Versatrans system.
Why can we not use the Tell me again, I missed that. Why is the Versatrans system?
Part of it is a mapping system. For us to actually do our routes, we have to have an accurate map.
Right.
So that we know exactly where all the kids are. Right now, we don't have an accurate map. We have streets that are going off into wilderness areas that aren't really wilderness areas. Our map that we have currently is not accurate. So
and we have to rely on the county to provide those maps?
Well, that's what we were hoping. It would be a quicker way for the county to do it, because right now what Ken was having to do was to go in and overlay the GIS map to our map, and then physically go in and click a point on the map and move the street over so that they matched 100%. And I said, how many streets do you have to do that to? He says, every street in Clark County. I have to make sure it's accurate. So instead of having Ken sit there and do those little points on the map, I figured we'll pay Versatrans to do it and get it done quicker.
So there's no ability to leverage what, say, the county police uses to pull that into this system? I mean, it's same streets and...
It's the same system, it's the county GIS, and it's 2 years behind. And there's been many new streets created, plus ours was so inaccurate. You know, where we actually went and did a click on our mileage on our odometer and said, okay, from this street to here, it's 3/4 of a mile or 2/10 of a mile, and it goes from this street number to that street number. Our mapping system was horrific.
Okay, well, we were hoping for good things there.
It's real important that it's accurate, because if you lose students because of that.
Plus we had about 200 kids we didn't know where they lived.
That's right.
So we had streets that didn't exist. So we're still going through that too.
I think that's the biggest issue, is the mapping process has been probably the most frustrating piece of it. I was just involved several months ago in a situation where I started to see myself that there were areas that there were streets that existed that weren't on this map, or vice versa. And so the first and foremost thing we must do is make sure we have an accurate map. And over all the years, with the development that has occurred in our school corporation, we've just been dealing with maps that aren't updated. And so we, with Versatrans' help, they're going to come in and help us make sure we have the most updated maps possible. Once we do that, that's probably the biggest piece of this whole issue, is just to have accurate maps, to have accurate residences, and then we can start piecing it all together. It's been a far bigger project than we knew it was going to be big. It's bigger than we even thought.
And what's the timeline for the maps, to Versatran getting the maps done?
Last I heard, it was gonna take about a month.
Okay.
But it's gonna be too late to do it for the next school year to actually get it done, since we're gonna start it relatively soon.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Student achievement.
Yes, Board, pretty exciting situation for us tonight because, as you know, we have an instructional cabinet combined of teachers and administrators that meets just about every Friday throughout the school year for about an hour and a half. And the first semester we worked on our impact program, which you were kind enough to approve and we implemented for the second semester. Well, second semester we went to work on a K-12 literacy initiative, a framework, so that we can be consistent with what we're expecting from a reading and writing perspective across our district. And our people did a lot of great work, and very, very proud of all of their efforts. And Mrs. Schellenberg will make a presentation at this point, and I appreciate her facilitating the process.
Just a little bit of history. Most of our work with literacy over probably the last 10 years, we had 7 years of funding, $7 million actually, as Reading First schools. We had 7 elementaries that were identified as Reading First. That ended about 5 years ago, was our last kind of funding year for that. And then 3 years ago, we had one school, Jonathan Jennings, that was selected as an opportunity school. And during Dr. Bennett's tenure as a state superintendent, they had introduced a new reading framework. And as an opportunity school, it was kind of a preview for a new reading framework, new standards that were coming out. And so Jonathan Jennings had the opportunity to go up and be trained as an entire staff. It was a week-long training and was probably, honestly, some of the best professional development that had been around, even through all the Reading First that we had had. Unfortunately, there hadn't been much carryover. So when we first started this discussion back in January of where we were headed with this framework, we started looking through everything that we had learned through Reading First, everything that we had learned through the Opportunities School, and we really started talking about where we wanted to go from the student perspective. That's where we ended up, and how important it was that we look at literacy broadly, and we look at literacy as not just from the role of the language arts teacher, but from the role of every teacher, and more importantly about the strategies that all kids needed to have reinforced in their daily activities. So we have 37 teachers and administrators who came every Friday morning at 7:30 and spent 90 minutes with us. And we had great conversations, and Brooks served on it, Frank served on it, this whole table. Some mornings it was rough. I gotta tell you, this was probably one of the roughest topics that we've had to cover, because we've got there's just a wide perspective, and there's a lot of opinions about literacy. There's a lot of fears, because we made sure that we didn't just include language arts teachers, we included other content areas. So we wanted to make sure that as we approached this whole concept of literacy, that we were making sure that we were recognizing and keeping track of professional development that we were going to have to address whatever and then we'll talk about that kind of as we go into the second feature of this. We came up with, and we're known for our non-negotiables, which we've now called non-negotiables, shared agreements, common beliefs, whatever. But our literacy beliefs for all classrooms is that we need to make sure that kids read every day, write every week, and publish every quarter. And we thought, this is pretty clear for every classroom. It needs to be going on in every classroom. And so this is what's going to guide and what we'll roll out for all of our teachers and all of our classrooms for next year. The second part of this, from an instructional strategy, is we have been, over the last probably 4 years, really concentrating on this idea of what should strong instruction look like. We do walkthroughs, and Ian, Travis, Dr. Mello, and myself, We have done probably, along with principals, hundreds of walkthroughs this year. We're in classrooms all the time, and one of the first things that we look at is student engagement. We want to make sure, from the eyes of the students, that the students are doing the majority of the work in the classroom. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that we have a really strong understanding of kind of a teach and a guided practice model, and what we've come to kind of train over the past few years as this gradual release model. In other words, as the teacher, I do first, I model it first explicitly, and then we do it as a group, and then finally you do it independently. We want to make sure before we release kids to do it independently that they've had the opportunity to see what it looks like and to have an opportunity to work together. So the majority of class time should be spent in that kind of I do, we do before they head into that independent practice. Because too often, probably 4 years ago, we were seeing a whole lot of kids doing independent practice and not enough of that modeling. So we've spent a lot of time, and we want to make sure that we reinforce that this is kind of the model we expect to see in all of our classrooms. So we want to make sure we have gradual release. This is a graphic organizer that just kind of looks at from the teacher responsibility, that the focus lesson should be kind of a good explanation of explicit modeling as the teacher is making sure they start their lesson with I do it, they have a guided instruction, and that there's collaboration. This is really where we should see students engaged. And engagement looks very different in different classrooms, but if you do walkthroughs, you might see kids paired up together, you might see kids giving thumbs up or checking for understanding, you might see kids collaborating together with answers or in groups of 4. There's all sorts of ways you might see them working together, problem solving, but that's the majority of the instruction in the classroom. And then before they do it independently, they might have a little bit of time in the classroom, but we really try to maximize classroom instruction kind of in that middle section. So we're going to reinforce that in terms of professional development. So when we look at what reading looks like in K-3 classrooms, and this is primarily, for the most part, in an elementary classroom because elementary teachers teach all content areas for the most part. We look at our K-3 classrooms as those learning to read classrooms. This is where kids are getting those skills. They're learning the skills they need to read. We wanted to concentrate in the areas of pre-reading, during reading, and post-reading, and begin thinking about our strategies in those 3 areas. And we wanted to make sure that we're beginning to be consistent. This is so critical from the eyes of the students. And you'll kind of see it, especially as we move into the intermediate and secondary kids, from their perspective. From the reading component, one of the things that I think has been the strongest carryover from Reading First is that when our teachers plan instruction, they plan around the 5 components of reading, which is phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. If you look historically at how our kids perform, vocabulary and comprehension tend to be our weakest areas. So those are the 2 areas that we wanted to tackle from a district perspective and make sure that we had strong strategies going on in our classroom. So those are the 2 that we concentrated on as a group. For all of our classrooms, we wanted to make sure that we had strong strategies in vocabulary and comprehension. And what we chose is to make sure that we use read aloud, think aloud, which most of our teachers are very familiar with. Again, that's a modeling practice that most of our teachers know. That during reading, they use a guided practice with a graphic organizer. Again, a very common tool. And then for a post-reading strategy, they're using a retell with the vocabulary. These are just common strategies, but we want to make sure that all teachers know that at a minimum, these are strategies that are used in all of our classrooms. If you move on to a 4 through 12, and we've actually had these broken down a number of ways. We had them broken down in a 4 through 6, a 7 through 9. We ended up combining them into a 4 through 12, primarily because we really started to look at this. Typically, these are kids that are now starting to departmentalize. They go to different teachers, and this is where we wanted to make sure that it's so important that our teachers know these strategies because we wanted our kids to have to be able to use consistent strategies, because the more they can practice the same strategies, the stronger their skill gets. And we should be able to see their skills in vocabulary and comprehension improve because they're practicing the same strategies over and over again, and they can use these strategies in a science classroom, in a social studies classroom, as much as they can use them in a language arts or a reading classroom. Our vocabulary strategies are a prioritization of what's kind of the high, the important, I guess, if you will, or high frequency words. And a Frayer model is actually just a graphic organizer that we chose. You'll see this term of Cornell note-taking, and we're really excited about this because we have a template for Cornell note-taking that has a Frayer, a graphic organizer, that's electronic, that all kids will have access to because they have a Chromebook now, so they'll be utilizing through Google. All kids have the same template, have the same model that all teachers have and will be able to utilize. Again, the Chromebooks, so just having the Chromebooks accompany this and complement this has just been an incredible, kind of nice journey for us to have this. And then a quick write will be a summary. So all of our teachers in all of the classrooms, regardless of what content area they teach, will be training in these strategies. Go on. We moved to the writing process because we said we wanted to make sure that writing was going on. We are blessed. Actually, we have one of the directors of the National Writing Project that IUS hosts is on our faculty here, Tammy Nuxall at Bridgepoint. She served on our group, and we have a lot of strong writing teachers in the district, but we also utilize a lot of different writing models. And so we wanted to make sure that we all utilize some common language. So we developed our writing process with these terms: a pre-writing planning model, a writing drafting model, or step, revising, and an editing and a publishing step. We wanted to make sure that conferencing, and by conferencing we mean that teachers actually talk to kids through each step of this process. These are the terms that ISTEP currently uses. We'll review these, kind of the titles of these steps each year to make sure that as the state maybe moves to a Common Core testing model, that we make sure that our writing process and those steps match and align, because we want to make sure that we're training kids the way that they're assessed, obviously. Go on. We utilize a rubric to score, and right now you kind of see an empty grid. That grid would be filled in with how kids should be scored and given a score for each of those numbers, a score of a 1 up to a 6, in the areas of ideas and content, organization, word choice, voice, sentence fluency, and convention. Those are for kids that are writing in the area of language arts. We wanted to make sure that kids who write in other content areas, as you saw, we wanted them to publish once quarterly in other content areas, also are scored in a similar way, and we've kind of picked out the areas of ideas and content, organization, word choice, and convention, because that's very easy to overlay in other content areas. It's very easy to make sure that if I'm writing in social studies that I'm utilizing vocabulary that goes along with that content area. Go ahead. Then we set up the guidelines that go along with what does good writing instruction look like in these different levels of classrooms. From a K2, again, if you think about learning to write, for pre-writing and planning, it's always good practice to use a graphic organizer to brainstorm. Oftentimes kids will use it almost looks like a sun. They put the topic in the middle and then they just generate words that go along with that topic. You often see that. For writing, we wanted to make sure that all of our teachers know that here's what we expect, that kids begin in K through 2 to develop paragraphs around 3 to 5 sentences. I know that the board has been visiting schools, and if you walk the hallways, you'll see some beautiful writing examples from kindergarten and first grade classrooms. And again, that goes along with the expectations that have changed significantly with Common Core, and the expectations that the kids not only have this level of vocabulary that's much more advanced than it's been in the past, but that they're able to put together complete sentences in writing that they've not had to do in the past. It's a significant change. So on. If you look in 3 through 5, again, we've talked about what the writing expectation is, that a paragraph on average looks like 5 sentences, and that by the time they leave 5th grade, we expect a minimum of 3 paragraphs. That in this concept of revising, that we expect a minimum of 2 drafts to be done. The one thing about we had a lot of conversation about is that we always want kids to feel like they need to get better, that they're always trying to get better, and a lot of teacher conferencing will encourage that, and knowing that when they're publishing, we want them to feel comfortable that when they publish, they're really publishing their best piece. Go ahead. Again, 6 through 8 is a minimum of 5 paragraphs. What we know about high-stakes testing and writing for high-stakes testing is that in order to get the higher scores, at a minimum, for minimum proficiency, kids need to have an opening paragraph, an introductory paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, or 3 supporting paragraphs, and a concluding paragraph, at a minimum. So we want to make sure that, at a minimum, that's our minimum expectation when kids write for us in grades 6 through 8. And you'll see that carry through to the next one for 9 through 12. This is something we've been wanting to do for a long time, to make sure that our genres for our writing, that we have quarterly benchmarks in place, that all kids are writing when we talk about publishing. So each quarter we'll have published pieces from K through 12 in the district, personal narrative, kind of the get to know you in the first quarter, a persuasive writing piece in their second quarter, informational in their third, and the fourth would be research. Again, from a secondary perspective and intermediate on, the home book, just amazing to have this in the kids' hands. So much easier. You don't have to fight for lab space. Kids are writing, right from their desktop, able to utilize Google Docs. Teachers can collaborate, kids can collaborate on projects and edit each other's and help with that, so we're really looking forward to those pieces. We know and realize, especially this first year, we have a huge job in front of us in terms of teacher support and training. We do not expect this to be day one, off and running. We have some great ideas from our teachers. One of the things they called, in one of our buildings, they do a 10-day launch, where in the first 10 days of school, they do an overview of their professional development. And that way, those teachers that are just go-getters, the type A's, they know, they get the picture, they can take off and go. But then from that launch, they back up and are able to now, here's kind of, we break down our training and support. So we've kind of modeled our teacher training and support and literacy that way. We will do an overview or a launch in the first quarter, and then we'll begin with our pre-reading and our ideas and content for writing in terms of our training. Quarter 2, we'll do our during reading strategies and our organization for writing. Quarter 3, post-reading, and then by the end of the 4th quarter, we'll have our complete model finished. So by the end of year 1, at the end of next year, we should have this whole model in place so that we're able to enter year 2 with knowing where we're going.
Board also, I know you probably will have some questions. I just think it's important that to us, literacy is a key for student success. The ability to read at high levels and write at high levels is critical for all of our students. But it really started out with the idea that we had to be consistent in our expectations across our district, so that regardless of what grade level a student is in, what building they attend, that there's a consistent system in place so kids can easily understand where we are and where we're going. And then the whole idea is, the expectation moving forward is that students need to be reading every day in every subject. And I think that's vital. The older our students get, sometimes the less they read and the less they're expected to read. So that grade 4 through 12 for us is vital, that our students are reading every day in every subject. They're writing at least every week in every subject. And they're publishing producing some kind of a written project at least once every 9 weeks. Those are minimum expectations, but I'm talking at every level, and I think that expectation will be critical for our students in terms of becoming more highly skilled readers and writers. So I'm sure you have maybe some questions or comments.
I do. This finally helps the students transition from elementary to middle school. We've had that problem for a long time, and this will help them do that. I have a question on Common Core. Are we going to continue with Common Core when the state puts it on hold?
That was a great question, and we've had a lot of conversation with that. We think we would be doing our kids a disservice if we did not continue with Common Core. But what we need to do, and will be doing as part of our innovation grant, is giving our teachers the language so that they understand that as we move into Common Core for second grade, that they also have a real clear understanding of what the alignment is to the current Indiana standards. So they'll know that there's an existing transition guide in place that aligns the Common Core to the current Indiana standards. So we'll be very clear about where that lineup is, but our expectation is to move to Common Core.
Okay, and then my second question is, I'm assuming we are then going to be sending someone to the Common Core workshop that is in Louisville on August 23rd, Friday, August 23rd.
We've been to many. We've had the Common Core here. We've been to many. There are several. So I don't know who the sponsor is of that one.
It came from Indianapolis. I mean, it's on my email. It was one of those I read.
I think it'll be interesting moving forward that, again, we're the state. One of the things that I think people are figuring out in the state is that when a decision was made for the state of Indiana to go to Common Core, there was a financial benefit and incentive from our federal government, from a financial perspective. So failing to continue with the Common Core puts some federal funding for our state at risk. I'm not so sure that everyone in Indianapolis is fully understanding of that scenario. So that's why not only do we feel, number one, it's what's best for kids, continue along the Common Core, but number two, from a financial perspective, I believe that people in Indianapolis need to really understand the potential negative ramifications financially of not continuing along this line. I really don't know. I don't mean to get too political, but I just don't understand truly what's happening right now in terms of this Common Core movement, because this is something, as you know, almost every state in the country has committed to Common Core, and to me, if every state is willing to do that, then that has to say that this must be pretty good stuff. So why are we even hesitating to move forward to do what is right? And as soon as I get an explanation from someone who thinks contrary to that, I'll be happy to share that with you, Board. But that's why we're going to continue to move forward with Common Core, because we think it's what's best for our kids.
Well, and I'm wondering, do they just not even know how many children move from one place to another, and how helpful that is to that child? That alone, not counting anything else, that alone for the child that would be moving, that is moving, that we know moves constantly, will go from one state to another and have the same kind of continuity that they need. That alone is the selling point to me.
Our district has benefited greatly from the flexibility waiver that the state has from No Child Left Behind. And part of that waiver is, contingent upon the Common Core state standards. So we would hate to see anything happen to that waiver.
Thank you.
Amy, I see writing up there a lot, but is the new writing word processing? Are our kids going to write on pencil and paper, or are we going to word process on the Chromebook? What's the changeover now? Is it writing? Is word processing, or?
I think you'll see both. Are you asking if we'll do cursive? Wait, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, in some ways.
We still teach handwriting. We still believe in, and we do still teach handwriting. But I think you'll see our published pieces are more along the lines of word processing. Yes.
And then the other thing, on the rubrics we're going to grade, you're going to have the benchmarks included, like how to get a 6, how to get a 4. They'll be in there.
In the conversations, we have We have them for language arts. We have those set up. We can set them where you could actually read them. But then what those look like for social studies, those are conversations that we'll have with the social studies teachers and develop them for social studies, for science, so that they're content specific also for their writing.
And I think just to carry on that point, I really appreciate our instructional cabinet as we worked on this whole idea of language arts and what are the expectations related to language arts and what are the expectations with writing in the other content areas. Because the one thing we want to make sure with all of our teachers in our non-language arts areas, a lot of times people might think, well, reading and writing is a language arts responsibility. And that's truly, as you know, not the case. We need all kids to be reading and writing within their content areas. So we want our teachers to be as comfortable as possible with teaching the skills of reading and the skills of writing within their own content areas. So that's why we had that separate rubric and tried to simplify it for our non-language arts teachers.
You've talked a little bit about the support that we're going to give our teachers and I assume our administrators too, so they know what to look for in classrooms and to monitor. How else will we monitor the implementation of this model?
We have, kind of as we go into the next phase, we'll talk about our goal clarity windows and our goal clarity process, and we have our innovation grant that will help kind of support that. We have actually 15 windows, if you will, set up for our common formative assessment. So we will have that, the common formative assessment data that will be coming through. We also have our traditional benchmark data that will come through in terms of being able to look at what is aligned. We have our STAR data that we've just utilized for impact, and acuity will also be around, as in addition to the benchmark published pieces as well. So we have classroom, just the somewhat objective from the walkthrough, but then also the more formative data in terms of the student performance.
I know that you guys struggled with a lot of different models that existed, kind of a site-based decision-making on which model, which program, which whatever. What was your biggest hurdle in getting all this organized, would you say?
Probably in the writing area, I would say, because we do have some Foursquare model. We have one crate. We have just the writing process, and we have a lot of people not willing to give up because, and to their credit, because they've seen gains.
They've seen gains.
And so once they've seen it, they want to, obviously they don't want to give it up. So just getting them to be able to see how can I make this work and stick with what I believe. And so I think that just being able to use this language, I think gave everybody what they wanted.
One of the things that we were really trying to work on, and we try to focus on here, are systems. That we put systems in place, not programs. So this literacy framework, I think that was the key for us, is to say, okay, let's not rely totally on certain programs that we've been doing, but let's look at this from a systems approach. What do we think makes for good reading, and good readers, and good writers? And so I think our people did a great job of getting past this idea of a program and thinking through what do we think is necessary to produce good readers and good writers. And I hope you'll continue to see that. I tell our people that we're putting all of our systems in place right now, and once they're in place, it's a matter of just refining what we do. A program may come and go, but a system is sustainable. So that our people, I was just really proud of them getting through that process and focusing on systems.
It's very evident that that was the target, and I think you've done a very good job in your group.
We had an instructional audit here about 6 years ago, and I think that maximizing instructional time was something that hit us very hard, and that is something in this district that you will not find as an issue. We are very, very clear that 90-minute literacy blocks, 45-minute, we have a 30-minute writing block everywhere. So the idea of teaching writing people are holding on to what they believe has shown gains, and so you want to respect that, but you also, I think, as Ms. Kraft said, we want to respect the fact that we need consistency for our kids, and we've got to begin to look through the students' eyes as they're the ones that are going through this day, and making sure that it's their strategies that we need to beef up, not necessarily ours.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Can I just give you this paper and have you look at it and see what you think the Louisville area does? It's students struggling with complex problems and the contest. And I was thinking if we're doing this, and that happens to be on peace and justice, which is a big deal for me, but just see if we could go someplace with that. Thank you.
If we can just kind of touch quickly on the professional development, these are our big ticket items, and I am a curriculum geek. I love this stuff. But we are working on our pacing guides, our clarity windows, for all content areas, and really this is there will not be a course that's offered in Greater Clark that does not have a 15 modules or 15 windows with assessments aligned to them when we come back next year. And again, the Chromebooks are really helpful with this. It's part of what our innovation grant is going to support. So we will have pacing guides in place with assessments. When you look at LARs, our LARs are learning and assessment rubrics. They are really designed to help improve the quality of our assessments. I don't know how far we will get with our LARs, but that will be the work next year. But we will have our windows and our assessments up, so that's primary for us next year. In instruction, we've had lots of talks about these topics. I think we've got the wrong slide up there, but that's okay. Go on back. You can go back. This one. I'm going to talk through. No instruction. Okay. This is our laundry list. And we actually narrowed this list down to 5 areas. The first one was technology, literacy, impact, engagement, and college and career readiness. And we've taken these other areas of gradual release, routines, TPPs, if you will, which are total participation techniques, which kind of go into engagement. And we said, okay, gradual release needs to be included whenever we talk about technology, whenever we talk about literacy. Engagement needs to be included whenever we talk about technology or literacy, because that's really about instruction and what we believe about instruction. When we talk about impact, we started impact in January, and we presented several times about how we are serving just really about 20% of our population. We have hundreds of kids that are being served through just being able to identify them based on some criteria that we set up. But we also have experienced, I would say, the pangs of a mid-year implementation. We're very much looking forward to starting fresh at the beginning of the year and utilizing STAR data from the very beginning of the year and getting kind of some clean data, really cleaning up what our assessment data looks like. And then concentrating on college and career. We've talked about, we have you've approved through professional development and travel. We have several teachers going for professional leave for training and Project Lead the Way this summer. So we have a lot of work being done in college and career readiness. So that's really our instructional focus. We have some teachers that are, being kind of pulled aside for that college and career readiness, but technology and literacy are for all teachers. All of our teachers will get that. You move on to assessment. We have right now one more year of I-STEP. That's what we're told. One more year. We're not sure where else we're going after that, but right now we have one more year of the state assessment for I-STEP. So we'll keep it going. With district benchmarks, we maintain acuity and STAR and our goal clarity assessments that go along with those. So those will be, we do data analysis through our period zeros. That's just kind of our normal process, what we do. possible, just kind of knowing any kind of changes that come along. With RISE, I think in June we will come back to you. We're meeting at the end of this year. We'll meet with the task force, with the GCEA, with their side and our administrative side to kind of look at this whole first year implementation of the RISE rubric. I can tell you that we have, I think as of a week ago, we had 2,552 evaluations in the system, and last year at this time we had like 530. So the number of evaluations has just increased like crazy. We have lots of changes that we want to make for next year, but one element that we still need to address, and we'll be looking at addressing over the next year, is we still need to find out how we're going to include measures of student learning. So we need to include some sort of assessment, student assessment into our teacher evaluation system. So that's going to be a big topic of conversation that we'll have with the Teachers Association through next year. IMAP is basically as a mentoring program or the initiation program into teacher licensing. And then we just want to make sure that we have systems in place or protocols in place for teachers, because as we kind of set up with the literacy, with technology, we need to make sure that we have a way to train any new teachers that come into our system, kind of like what is the basic expectation for all teachers. And if we've trained everybody and we get new teachers in either on temporary contracts or new teachers that are coming in just mid-year or whenever, that they have a way to get up to date on any kind of expectations that we have on training. So we need to get protocols in place to make sure those are in place. Our delivery models, because we do have Brett and Daniel's been a great asset with the video. We do have videos that we're developing for training. The concept of live binders is just a way for us to add websites and just kind of put like all of our literacy together, all of our literacy resources together as a one-stop shop for teachers to be able to go to electronically. Mentors, we need to do a better job this coming year of having opportunities for collaboration and just be able to stop at the beginning and the end of quarters and say, hey, what worked, what didn't work, have opportunities for collaboration, and get back to doing a little more walkthroughs with staff. Over the last few years, we've done, I think we made a lot of strides with no evaluation tools in our hands, just walking around with administrators and teachers, walking through classrooms, looking at kids and saying, what are they doing? You know, how is it through the eyes of a student? And it really changes a lot of the dynamics in the corporation and allowed, I think, our teachers to feel like they could take some risks and really kind of talk about their own practice. So I think we need to get back to that, and we want to have some opportunities for that to take place. If we talk about how we do things, this concept of our instructional cabinet has been critical for us to be able to have an opportunity for teachers, administrators, central office to get together and handle or just be able to work through topics, instructional topics that the corporation's facing. One of the things we're going to deal with, I think, early on next year is the concept of grading. And something that we've kind of talked about over the last couple of years, but we've never really kind of gotten a handle on. We want to deal with it starting next year. And we all have different opinions about it. We want to get some strategies in place where we all kind of get a common understanding of how we feel about grading or what our practices are going to be about grading in greater part. From instructional cabinet, we want to make sure we reinforce what happens in instructional cabinet at the principal's meeting, that the principals then can take it back to the building leadership teams. Those building leadership teams are critical for communication out to all the teachers. And then from the building leadership team, those teachers then lead the period zeros, which has been a great model. When the state eliminated bank time, when they've eliminated professional development dollars and grants, this concept of period zero has saved our district, I think. So we're very, very fortunate to have it.
PD questions?
Just one, Amy. The Greater Clark Way, I love that. How do you close the other side of that loop? How do you get information from period 0 back up to instructional cabinet so that, you know, what's working well, what's not working well? How does that happen?
My graphics weren't working.
Yeah, you're.
And actually, the people that leave period 0 actually then typically are on the building leadership team, so it goes back up from the building leadership team meeting to the principal's meeting, and they come up to
Okay.
so it kind of goes both ways.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Thank
And
you.
honestly, when we first started doing it, some of us are at every one of those levels, and there were times when we said, Lord, we listened to this, the same topic over and over again. But then it got to the point where it was so helpful because the perspectives were so different. It really did change a lot of, it helped us change a lot of our practices, and it helped clarify probably a lot of the things that we were doing.
Yeah, I'm thinking you probably have some very talented folks down around the period 0, and they've probably got some really good best practice, and to make sure that that information was going to get back up to.
One of the things, too, Board, that we believe in is we're expecting a lot of our staff, and that's fine because our kids deserve that. But what we also need to do for our staff is provide them with as much training and support as we possibly can. So we expect a lot of them, but we also know that we need to make sure we put forth the training and support they need to be successful. So that's why this last presentation was so important, because oftentimes you put the professional development together and sometimes it's not as lasting or sustainable as you need it to be. So one of the challenges for us as we look at all these topics is how do we make sure that we focus it enough to make sure the training and the support is sufficient. So that's what we'll be working on over the course of the next couple of months.
Any other questions? Lots of work. Lots of work.
Great job.
We appreciate you all sharing with us. Mr. Hall, do you have any comments to close out the meeting?
I had a great lunch at Pleasant Ridge last week with Dr. Mellon and a couple other board members. It's a outstanding school. They got it going on in the right direction.
And that just happens to be a Charlestown school, so yeah, got to give them a few props there for sure. Teresa?
Yes, we walked into the school and one of the young men in the office, and I'm sure he was in the office for good reason, he looked at us and he said, because Dr. Mellon had on his suit, and he looked at us and he said, we must be hiring somebody. And then we moved on to classroom, and we were an attorney. Why are the attorneys here? That man in the suit. So we created a little stir, but we had a great day. I'd like to also comment on the art show that happened. I did not get there. I had another engagement, but I peeked in the windows at the Bales building. If you haven't seen the work, we have outstanding art teachers and art students, and I'm glad that we're able to continue to support the visual arts and the performing arts because it's so important to our kids.
Jerry?
Pop that.
Thank you. No? Can't do that.
No, you can do. Okay, Mr. Dykle, how expensive is it for us to paint our minibuses? I was at a golf match and I was totally embarrassed. Everybody was there from all over southern Indiana, and they had great looking buses, and hours of paint was peeling off of it, and the name was barely visible, and I thought, this can't be happening. Can't be. I didn't see that. Can we do something about that? I mean, it's terrible. Well, I just saw one bus, and that's the wrong bus to have sent, believe me, because everybody else's bus looked great, and it was like, do we not even have the money to paint the bus? No, sir. I'm sure if you go look, you can find the bus.
Yeah, it's a
hope
mini
they
bus.
don't all look like
I
that
think
bus.
that, a lot of times we buy those buses and they come in the standard white and they normally have some kind of a school name on them and they maybe have a little trim or whatever. So I think that it might be time for us to at least look at the possibility of what it would cost to paint them. It's fairly expensive to have them painted, but that doesn't mean we can't look at some kind of a potential rotation to get them.
You could call Brownstown or all the other people that were
I
there.
know.
I don't know how they did
I've
that,
seen
but
them.
They did make us, they made it look really bad.
I've seen them.
Yeah,
What about minibus?
one of those minibuses.
It'd be nice if we could get it wrapped, like they do those vehicles with
Right.
children's pictures on it and
Yeah, all that.
programs and
See, I started something.
Need a community support mechanism to help us.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then we could put
whatever.
whoever paid for it down here in little bitty letters.
And then I have, I always have things for you to read, which I'm sure you never read, but anyway. When billionaires become educational experts, it's just really interesting.
They are.
Yeah, they're all educational experts.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all.
Mr. Pavey?
Dr. Dykle, I'm surprised you didn't refer them right back to the transportation budget you just covered us with, so.
Yeah.
No, I just,
Yeah.
excited about the weekend. We've got graduations coming up, Jeff, New Washington and Charlestown, and plan to be at all of them. So get to see the fruits of the labor, all the hard work that's going on out there. It's fun to watch them going up the aisle. And all the people that aren't supposed to say anything, well, they're not really quiet that day. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. So hope you all can make it if you can. So.
Thank you all. Hope you have a great summer. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Mellon.
Well, a couple of things real quickly. Board, a person that you approved this evening is here in the audience. I thought I'd introduce Brooke Lannon, who will be a special ed supervisor for us. And we welcome her. Charlestown Middle School special ed teacher. Has done a great job, part of their leadership team, part of our instructional cabinet, a significant contributor, and we look forward to her contributions at a even a higher level for our school corporation. So congratulations, Brooke. Congratulations. Also, Utica 4-star school. I know there's been some information out there. We're going to officially recognize them at our next board meeting. That's quite a feat, quite an honor. Our goal now is to get more of our schools, 4-star schools, but we'll keep working along those lines. Graduation rate came out, article, and again, even though we're still catching up to some of our other school colleagues around the area, 88.1% in graduation rate is vast improvement, 6.7% improvement over the previous year. And I believe, Board, that with our College and Career Readiness Initiative that we're putting in place and our alternative program that continues to make strides and will continue to do so, I hope that graduation rate will get up there over 90%. Maybe even next year would be a goal for us moving forward. And food service provided, a nice update, which they do on a monthly basis. They do great work for us, so appreciate what you do and appreciate the updated information. And graduation is definitely the way to celebrate the end of the year. The last day of school is Friday for our students. Teachers will finish the 28th, and it's hard to believe that we're at another end of a school year. But appreciate the board for all of your support this year and look forward to commencements.
They did breakfast, French toast, fabulous.
That's good. Thank you.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. In a second.
Second.
Mr. Pavey, thank you. All in favor? All right. Good night.